Good day. This is SO 306, Study Session 2. Education in Nigeria. Introduction. In this study session, we will examine the organizations that introduced Western education in Nigeria, results of the absence of an official education policy, the first statement by the British Privy Council's Committee on Education, places where Islam was firmly established in Nigeria, national goals of Nigeria, values of social work and education in Nigeria. We shall also expose you to the goals of education both in primary and secondary education in Nigeria. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this study session, you should be able to outline the history of formal education in Nigeria, explain the philosophy of Nigerian education, analyze the national goals of Nigeria, point out the point of connection between social work and education in Nigeria. History of Western education in Nigeria. Educational development in southern Nigeria, 1842 to 1914. The period 1842 to 82 was marked by intensive missionary activities and expansion in southern Nigeria. During this time, the Church Missionary Society, CMS, the Wesleyan Methodist Missionary Society, the Roman Catholic Mission, the United Presbyterian Church of Scotland, the Kwa Igbo Mission, the Primitive Methodist Missionary Society, and the Basel Mission family established themselves in this area. Up to 1882, the colonial government in Nigeria paid little or no attention to the educational needs of the people, and the field was left entirely to the missions. This period can, therefore, be justifiably termed the era of exclusive Christian missionary education in southern Nigeria. All the missionaries used the school as a means of conversion, and each found that children were more valuable for this purpose than adults, though adults were not ignored in their evangelical program. In addition to book learning, vocational training was added to the program. At Abeokuta, for instance, and later at Onitsha, Lokoja, and Calabar, agriculture, carpentry, bricklaying, ginnery, and so on were encouraged by the CMS, the Church of Scotland, and other missions. In Topo near Badagry, the famous Topo Industrial School for Delinquent Children was started in 1876 by the Roman Catholic Mission. During the period under review, the missions, while emphasizing religion, set the moral tone for their members. Character training, a stern code for European ethics, and the like were enforced. Naturally, conflict developed as the traditional African way of life conflicted with the European one. Polygamy was prominent among the people, but a good Christian was expected to be monogamous. This caused no small conflict within the church, and the issue was destined to plague the church to the present day. Some of the missions, for example, the CMS and the Methodists, set up management boards to help regulate the curriculum, teachers' salaries, conduct, and so on. The achievements of the missions during this period of government indifference to education included translation of the Bible into the local languages, for example, Yoruba, Igbo, Efik, and Nupe, introduction of vocational or industrial education, character training, use of the vernacular and English, regulations concerning training, employment, and payment of teachers, and establishment of a code of conduct for teachers and pupils. However, The absence of an official education policy resulted in the lack of 1. A common syllabus, standard textbooks, regular school hours, and so on. 2. Adequate supervision of schools, buildings, teachers, pupils, and so on. 3. A central examination system. 4. Uniformity in the condition of service of teachers. And 5. Adequate financial support and control. Government intervention. Prior to 1925, the British government had no clearly defined policy on education in its African colonies. What might appear as its first statement on the issue was made by the British Privy Council's Committee on Education in 1847, when it vaguely referred to the need for securing better conditions of life and development of the African as a peasant on the land. Between 1870 and 1876, the colonial government in Lagos made spasmodic attempts to assist some of the missions in their educational work. It earmarked the sum of $300 for the support of the missions but failed to pay the grant, apparently for lack of funds. In 1872, it earmarked $1,000, then reduced it to $330 and later to $30. This sum of $30 was distributed among 3 missions: the CMS, the Wesleyan, and the Catholic missions operating in the Lagos area. In 1873, the government again voted $300 but failed to redeem its pledge. However, between 1874 and 1876, it made an annual grant of $300 and shared it equally among the 3 missions. And in 1887, it raised the grant to $600 per year. This was the extent of government policy on education prior to 1882. The first education ordinance was promulgated in 1882, when the colony of Lagos was still jointly administered with the Gold Coast colony. The ordinance covered the West African territory of Lagos, the Gold Coast, Sierra Leone, and Gambia. Educational development in northern Nigeria. As discussed earlier, Islam predated Christianity in Nigeria by hundreds of years. The first thing a Muslim community did was to build a mosque and use the premises of the courtyard as a Quranic school. Thousands of such schools existed in northern Nigeria and hundreds of them in southern Nigeria before the first Christian schools were built in Badagry and Abeokuta. Sir Frederick Lugard, the former Governor General of Nigeria, estimated that in 1914 there were at least 25,000 Quranic schools scattered throughout northern Nigeria with a total pupil population of 218,618. Islam was firmly established in the north and in the south in a few towns such as Oyo, Ibadan, and Lagos. For over 500 years in the north and half a dozen decades in the south, it produced its own eminent scholars or ulama, who were staunch guardians of Islamic theory, philosophy, and jurisprudence. All the northern emirs were political and spiritual leaders of their people and would not tolerate any local or foreign interference. It was not surprising, therefore, that the advent of Christianity in Nigeria in 1842 caused a head-on collision with Islam, especially in the north where it was more firmly established. The fact is that Islam did not slow down the progress of education in the northern part of Nigeria as popularly believed. It was Christian-oriented or evangelical education that slowed down the progress of secular education in northern Nigeria and among the Muslims in the south. Since missionary schools were established primarily to convert children and young adults to the Christian faith, the Muslims in the north and south saw this as a definite threat to their own faith. The schools in those days and even today were places where pupils went in as pagans and Muslims and came out as converted Christians. To prevent the wholesale conversion of Muslims to Christianity, the Muslims, particularly the emirs and other leaders in the south, refused to send their children to Christian schools. It will have been more interesting to see what will have happened if the first type of education offered to the northern and western Muslims was the secular type, run not by missionaries but by teachers and administrators. National policy on education. A nation's policy on education is government's way of realizing the parts of the national goals that can be achieved using education as a tool. No policy on education, however, can be formulated without first identifying the overall philosophy and goals of the nation. National philosophy and goals. The overall philosophy of Nigeria is to A. Live in unity and harmony as one indivisible, indissoluble, democratic and sovereign nation founded on the principles of freedom, equality and justice. B. Promote inter-African solidarity and world peace through understanding. The 5 main national goals of Nigeria, which have been endorsed as the necessary foundation for the national policy on education, are the building of A free democratic society, B. a just and egalitarian society, C. a great and dynamic economy, D. a land full of bright opportunities for all citizens. In Nigeria's philosophy of education, it is believed that A. Education is an instrument for national development. To this end, the formulation of ideas, their integration for national development, and the interaction of persons and ideas are all aspects of education. B. Education fosters the worth and development of the individual for each individual's sake and for the general development of the society. C. Every Nigerian child shall have a right to equal educational opportunities irrespective of any real or imagined disabilities, each according to his or her ability. D. There is need for functional education for the promotion of a progressive, united Nigeria. To this end, school programs need to be relevant, practical, and comprehensive, while interest and ability should determine the individual's direction in education. Nigeria's philosophy of education is, therefore, based on A. the development of the individual into a sound and effective citizen, B. the full integration of the individual into the community, and C. the provision of equal access to educational opportunities for all citizens of the country at primary, secondary, and tertiary levels, both inside and outside the formal school system. For the philosophy to be in harmony with Nigeria's national goals, education has to be geared towards self-realization, better human relationship, individual and national efficiency, effective citizenship, national consciousness, national unity, and social, cultural, economic, political, scientific, and technological progress. The national educational goals, which derive from the philosophy, are therefore A. the inculcation of the type of values and attitudes for the survival of the individual and the Nigerian society. B. the training of the mind in the understanding of the world around, and C, the acquisition of appropriate skills and the developmental of mental, physical, and social abilities and competencies as equipment for the individual to live in and contribute to the development of the society. In consequence, the quality of instructions at all levels has to be oriented towards inculcating the following values. A, respect for the worth and dignity of the individual. B, faith in man's ability to make rational decisions. C, moral and spiritual principle in interpersonal and human relations. D, shared responsibility for the common good of the society. E, promotion of physical, emotional, and psychological development of all children. And F, acquisitions of competencies necessary for self-reliance. In order to realize the full potentials of the contributions of education to the achievement of these goals and values, all other agencies should operate in concert with education. To that end, government will take various measures to implement the policy. A, education shall continue to be highly rated in the national development plans because it is the most important instrument of change in the intellectual and social outlook of any society, has to be preceded by an educational revolution. B, lifelong education shall be the basis of the nation's educational policy. C, education and training facilities shall continue to be expanded in response to societal needs and made progressively accessible to afford the individual a far more diversified and flexible choice. D, educational activities shall be centered on the learners for maximum self-development and self-fulfillment. E, universal basic education in a variety of forms, depending on needs and possibilities, shall be provided for all citizens. F, efforts shall be made to relate education to overall community needs. G, educational assessment and evaluation shall be liberalized by their being based in whole or in part on continuous assessment of the progress of the individual. H, modern educational techniques shall be increasingly used and improved upon at all levels of the education system. I, the education system shall be structured to develop the practice of self-learning. Government shall, in this regard, continue to encourage the establishment of Young Readers Club in schools. J, at any stage of the educational process after junior secondary education, an individual shall be able to choose between continuing full-time studies and combining work with study, or embarking on full-time employment without excluding the prospect or resuming studies later on. K, opportunities shall continue to be made for religious instruction. No child will be forced to accept any religious instruction which is contrary to the wishes of his or her parents. And L, physical and health education shall be emphasized at all levels of the education system. Goals of primary education. In specific terms, primary education shall: A, provide all primary school leavers with the opportunity for education of a higher level, irrespective of sex, social status, religious or ethnic background. B, offer diversified curriculum to cater for the differences in talents, opportunities, and future roles. C, provide trained manpower in the applied science, technology, and commerce at sub-professional grades. D, develop and promote Nigerian languages, art, and culture in the context of the world's cultural heritage. E, inspire students with a desire of self-improvement and achievement of excellence. F, foster national unity, with an emphasis on the common ties that unite us in our diversity. G. Raise a generation of people who can think for themselves, respect the views and feelings of others, respect the dignity of labor, appreciate those values specified under our broad national goals, and live as good citizens. H. Provide technical knowledge and vocational skills necessary for agricultural, industrial, commercial, and economic development. To achieve the stated goals, secondary education shall be of 6-year duration, given in 2 stages, a junior secondary school stage and a senior secondary school stage. Each shall be of 3 years duration. Junior secondary school. The junior secondary school shall be both pre-vocational and academic. It shall be tuition-free, universal and compulsory. It shall teach basic subjects which will enable the pupil to acquire further knowledge and skills. Every student shall offer A minimum of 10 and a maximum of 13 subjects. B. All subjects in Group A. C. At least one subject from Group B and C. Group A, Core. A. English, French, Mathematics, Language of Environment to be taught. L1. One major Nigerian language other than that of the environment. Integrated Science, Social Studies and Citizenship Education, Introductory Technology. Group B, Pre-vocational electives. Agriculture, Business Studies, Home Economics, Local Crafts, Computer Education, Fine Arts, and Music. Emphasis on subjects in Group B shall be on practice. Group C, non-pre-vocational electives. A. Religious knowledge. B. Physical and health education. C. Arabic. Students who complete junior secondary school shall be streamed into A. The senior secondary school. B. The technical college. C. An out-of-school vocational training center. And D. An apprentice scheme. The streaming shall be based on the result of tests to determine academic ability and vocational interest of the pupil, and as much as possible to achieve a transition ratio of 50:50 as follows. Senior secondary school. A. The senior secondary school shall be comprehensive with a core curriculum designed to broaden the pupil's knowledge and outlook. B. Every student shall take all the 6 core subjects in Group A and a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 2 from the list of elective subjects in Group B. And C. To give a minimum of 7 and maximum of 8 subjects. C. One of the 3 elective subjects may be dropped in the last year of senior secondary school course. Group A, Core. English language. 2. Mathematics. 3. A major Nigerian language. 4. One of biology, chemistry, physics or health science. 5. One of literature in English, history, geography or religious studies. 6. A vocational subjects. Group B, vocational electives. 1. Agriculture. 2. Applied electricity. 3. Auto mechanics. 4. Bookkeeping and accounting. 5. Building construction. 6. Commerce. 7. Computer education. 8. Electronics. 9. Clothing and textiles. 10. Food and nutrition. 11. Home management. 12. Metal work. 13. Technical drawing. 14. Woodwork. 15. Shorthand. 16. Typewriting. 17 fine art, 18 music. Group C, non-vocational electives: biology, chemistry, physics, further mathematics, French, health education, physical education, literature in English, history, geography, Bible knowledge, Islamic studies, Arabic, government, economics, and any Nigerian language that has orthography and literature, and so on. Government welcomes the participation of voluntary agencies, communities, and private individuals in the establishment and management of secondary schools. State government shall prescribe conditions to be met by the communities and others wishing to establish secondary schools. Government shall regulate the establishment of schools, supervise and inspect schools regularly, and ensure that all schools follow approved curricula and conform to the national policy on education. The teacher-pupil ratio at this level of education shall be 1:40. Connection between school, social work, and the goals of education. In this section, you will examine that the purpose of the school is similar to the purpose of school social work. Both systems work to ensure that all students who attend school make the most of their educational opportunities. Over the span of a century, schools have broadened their missions and scope towards greater inclusion and respect for the individual differences of all children. Consequently, social workers and educators share similar values. Schools and families are placed where children should discover their own dignity and worth and come realize their potential. Unfortunately, the human potential of each person is often needlessly wasted. The worlds of young people, often so full of hope, can be colonized at the same time by strange and distorted pictures of human worth and social relations coming from many sources. School social workers are, therefore, concerned about children who may not at a given moment be able to use what education has to offer. School social workers work with young people and with their school and family environment, assisting them to accomplish tasks associated with their learning, growth, and development. This is to enable them come to a fuller realization of their intrinsic dignity, capability, and potential. The basic focus of the school social worker is the constellation of teacher, parent, and the child. The social worker must be able to relate to and work with all aspects of the child's situation, but the basic skill underlying all of this is assessment, a systematic way of understanding and communicating what is happening and what is possible. Building on assessment, the social worker develops a plan to assist the total constellation of teacher and student in the classroom, parents in the family, and others to work together to support the child toward the successful completion of the developmental steps that lie ahead. In respect of the foregoing, the basic questions for the school social worker are: where is the best place to intervene? 2. What should the role of school social worker be in this particular school community? Role. The key to understand what the school social worker does is a set of expected behavior constructed by school social workers together with their school communities. In each school, this role is developed by social workers and others, such as the principal and the teachers. To do this school, social workers need to have a vision of what is possible, possess tools of analysis. To do this, school social worker need to have a vision of what is possible, possess tools of analysis, be comfortable with the processes of negotiation, and coordinate their interventions with the life of the school. Study session summary. In this study session, we have traced the history of Western education in Nigeria. We examined educational development in both southern and northern parts of Nigeria. We examined the components of national policy on education, specific goals of primary and secondary education in Nigeria, and connection between those goals and school social work are also discussed. We noted that the purpose of the school is similar to the purpose of school social work. Both systems work to ensure that all students who attend school make the most of their educational opportunities. We have come to the end of study session 2. Thanks for listening.